Hold on a second.
Good evening. I'm Jerry McIntosh, and this is Community Conversation. This evening, we're going to address the issue of racial disparities and climate change. We're going to address that and other hot topics this evening. But first, we'll go to our host, Mr. Bill Snow, who is the author from the Projects to the Boardroom, Dr. Isaac Williams, who is the great pastor of Greater True Vine Baptist Church and moderator for this area, Rodney Jones, who is the president of Move for Change and New World Believers and so many other things that he's doing. We want to thank you all for being here. And then Carol McIntosh, who is also a former educator, principal, administrator, now the president of the Progressive Black Women. We're going to get started and say hello to everybody out there that's listening. First, we want to say happy birthday to Miss Helen Stokes, and we're going to say this again, just in case they got on late. We're going to say happy birthday again.
And we also want to say happy birthday to my niece, Nicole Rashad.
Yeah.
So I don't think she wants me to give her age, but happy birthday, Nicole. Do y'all have anyone else that you want to say something, birthday or anything like that? Your panel host? No, I guess. Okay,
her Clifford Stokes, who is her husband, wanted to also wish her a happy birthday.
Oh, isn't that nice? See, that's what I really like. See, y'all, you got that, Dr. Williams? You see how I did that? You see, Rodney? He knows what to do.
Yes, indeed. Yes, he does.
Okay, well, let's start with the show. Y'all ready? You know, we always have a lot to talk about, but what about Tropical Storm Fred and Grace? You know, we were kind of concerned about it at first, but I think it's fizzled out. Have y'all heard anything different?
I haven't.
Oh, evidently, no one is concerned about Fred coming in or Grace coming in, because y'all like, oh, Fred, Grace, who is that? But Tropical Storm, I think is going to go in through Panama City. I think that's the last one that I heard. So school is open tomorrow, so that means that it must not be too bad.
That's true.
Oh, I think they had some closings. I think they had a few closings. I heard late.
I just got a email from the school system saying the schools will open tomorrow, unless
it may not have been schools, but I heard a few closings in the background as I was reading earlier.
Oh, really?
It may not have been schools, but I heard of a few closings.
Well, I think if it's closing, school should be closed itself. But I was surprised that they were opening up.
If they ain't gonna close it down for COVID for these babies, they sure don't care about no rain.
Right, Bill.
Now that is all true. That's what you said. While we're talking about schools, let's get right to it. You know, they haven't changed anything. It's still, the governor is still saying no mask, but the CDC guidelines are totally different. So who has the power, the governor or the CDC, as far as, or parents, as far as following guidelines or what should be done for the safety of the children?
The CDC issues guidelines, and hopefully the states will follow. Usually people follow the guidelines of the CDC. Brother Bill, go ahead.
No, you were on point, but I was simply going to say that it's in Florida, it's optional as far as whether your child wears a mask or not. I mean, it's not mandated that everybody has to, but it doesn't mean that your child cannot, but I think that everybody should be, and none of the social distancing is really taking place. It's full-fledged.
You know what I find interesting about this question, Ms. Carol? The governor is issuing directives as to what the superintendent can and cannot do. Now, as long as I can remember, superintendents have and schools have decided, they have made directive that they thought was in the best interest of the school or the district. For example, in Escambia County, they mandated wearing uniforms.
Mhm.
You can mandate wearing uniforms, but you can't mandate wearing a mask. If you come to school and you don't have on that little pair of khaki pants, that blue shirts or whatever, they're gonna send you right on back home.
Mm.
But you can mandate wearing clothes, but you can't mandate wearing cloth over the little kid mouth to save his mama or grandmama or loved ones. I find it ironic.
A step further to that, doctor, is that that same governor did ask for some more machines. So if people, if our babies got to the hospital, they'd be able to put them on that machine to save their lives. Is that not insane? He did ask the federal government for.
Well, the doctors forced him to. Those they put so much pressure on him, he had to ask for, because the federal government was giving it anyway. So he just threw his name in the hat. But Biden had already decided to send that stuff.
And then he pretend like he didn't know they were coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said, I thought it was fake news the way he was talking.
But I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think we have to govern our own communities as we govern our own families. And I think even without a mandate being in place, we understand how vulnerable our community is. And I think that's a consistent message we should put out in our community, that, you know, like I got 3 kids in school. It's mandatory for them. I tell them they have to wear masks. They have to go in, they have to wear their mask. They have to practice social distancing. They have to do all of the protocol that's already in place. But that's for me, because everybody has to take charge of their own family, as we as Black people have to take charge of our own community. We don't need the governor to say it's a mandate or not a mandate. We don't need the school to say there's a mandate or not a mandate. We know how many people are dying in our community. We know how many people are vulnerable in our community. I think it's up to us to take charge and say, okay, we need the mandate in our community, and that should be a consistent message in our community.
And Rodney, you're spot on. But you know, the mere fact that even though we make our children mask up, if Lil John is sitting next to him and snotting and not doing all of what he's supposed to be doing, they're still at that great risk. So the mandate is important. Only 7 states are holding out on this foolishness. But if they're gonna force them back into those tight spaces, basically at least, I mean, from the first day of school, they had over 400 infected on the first day. Come on, man. A ball of confusion is what it amounts to.
You have 2 areas. You have the buses that will probably have a lot of COVID. You have the cafeteria. There's a lot of kids at one time in the cafeteria, and there's the classroom. And there's recess and extracurricular activities.
Yes.
So we have to be concerned about. Do you have any updates, Dr. Williams, on anything dealing with the vaccines or COVID?
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. I do. I think it's a good update to help us to take a look at the different attitudes of the CEO of Baptist during this surge compared to early in the spring when he met with the governor and everything and his spin. And he just put out a video, I think Thursday or Friday of last week. And Mark Faulkner of Baptist, he is urging the public to get the vaccine. In his video, he says the difference in this previous surges versus now. First is the Delta variant. This is what Faulkner's saying. They are this variant. It is affecting younger, healthier patients than ever before. These young people are struggling for their life. He said this is a very difficult and different situation. In fact, Faulkner said that 1/3 of the hospital beds at Baptist are currently occupied by COVID patients. And on top of that, he added that 9 out of the 10 patients hospitalized with COVID were unvaccinated. And while all the COVID patients on ventilation are unvaccinated. And so I think more than anything else, and then he goes on to say that they went on to report that 357 total COVID hospitalization as of Friday, 345 adults and 12 children in this little small county. I think that's speaking volume, you all. 357 people are hospitalized, and I got a call yesterday evening. Well, no, I did not. My wife got a call. And when my wife got a call, she said, Pastor, one of our members on the line with me, she just been admitted into the hospital with COVID, and she's soliciting our prayers. She's one of my beloved members, and that just bothered me. I went into prayer on her behalf, and I'm trusting and praying that the Lord will allow her to come out. But once you get in there with COVID, you know, it can go either way. And from my understanding, she was unvaccinated. Now, I think her unvaccination may be justified because I think of medical conditions. She works in the medical field, and sometime if you got certain conditions, they don't want to give you the vaccine. But I certainly hope that she'll pull through it, but if the vaccine gonna hurt her more than help her, but what I'm saying, this pandemic is affecting those who are unvaccinated at a horrific, an alarming rate.
Dr. Williams, that number that you gave, I don't think is a true testament to what's really going on. That's just the amount of hospital space pretty much that you're speaking of. I have a dear friend of mine, brother, that goes to church with me, that was in the ER all night 2 nights ago and was sent home, and he has full-fledged. So those numbers are not being reported. They said that they just didn't have the space for him, and quite naturally, with him being Black, that even made space even that much more less. So the numbers are no real testament. I think the numbers that you gave, it's a sad situation, and I know you're speaking of hospitalization capacity, but man, I figure if my brother got turned away, there are a whole lot of folk being turned away that actually has it. And this brother has some underlying health issues. Fortunately, he was vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And I believe, as I've been praying and interceding for him, that the fact that he was fully vaccinated may have very well saved his life, because I started sending some timbers up 5 nights earlier. And on the 5th day, I checked with his wife and she said, ain't nothing changed. Then I started turning down my plate. And then by noon of that same morning, she called me back and said he got a full meal down and he's sitting out on the balcony taking in some air. So, but she said it wasn't looking good for 5 days, and he had pneumonia in his lungs. So man, this thing is not playing around.
Hey, Doc,
go ahead.
Brother Bill, I believe you are 100% accurate, because my pastor, he went to the hospital the other night, not from COVID, but they wouldn't even let him in because they said there's no bed space. And so they said they're going to admit him whenever they move some folks around. So I don't know that he had to spend that whole night waiting somewhere. When I went to see him yesterday, he was actually in the hospital. But it's getting at critical mass, because they're going to be at full capacity if this thing doesn't turn around soon. And so if by all means they can send you back home, they're going to send you back home, and they don't want that really to be on their stats as being in the hospital.
Rodney, you had something to say?
I just had a quick question. I looked at some Escambia County numbers, and I just want to know if they were true. For July, it had we had a 7-day average of 30 infections per week. And then I looked from August 1st through the 14th, it says a 210 or 230 average for 7 days. Does those numbers sound right to you?
I saw those numbers today, and it seemed like that the numbers are up like 800%.
Wow.
It It's bad right now, you all. And if you going to enter the marketplace, everything, people are not masking. They are not social distancing, and they're not taking the vaccine. But if anybody listening to me, I'm finished, Miss Carol. I have an incentive. I'm a part of the Black and Brown Task Force to get people vaccinated. You know anybody in the Pensacola area, within the city limit, that if they are willing to take the vaccine, if they'll take it at the end of, when they get the second shot, I can give them a $100 Visa card for them to go and shop, spend the money like they want to. Mr. Rodney helped me came to that conclusion.
Is it the first shot or the second shot, Pastor?
It's the second shot. I need to get them fully vaccinated. Halfway through, they helping, but they ain't helping me as much. When you get that second shot, I'm gonna put that card in your hand.
That's what's
Now,
up.
I have a situation here that my mom is not vaccinated. And I was concerned because she's 94, and I was concerned about the effects of the Moderna on, not as far as, there was a little side effects where she would get tired or might have a headache or whatever. You know how they say it's not so much the first shot, it's the second shot. So
can I speak to that?
Let me finish and then okay, because there's a whole scenario. So what I did was I didn't think about this might affect someone else. So with her being 94, I didn't think about the fact that she would need any particular ID because at 94 she's not driving, she doesn't go anywhere, she doesn't do anything. So, but I thought about it and I said, well, let me just call and check and see exactly what sites are open and what the requirements are. What I found out was that she needed to have a valid ID, even at 90, well, I would say 95, she'll be 95 next month. She needed to have a valid ID. Well, her driver's license were suspended because, years ago. So she didn't have valid ID. And I'm sure there's a lot of elderly people in this situation. And so then what I had to do, and I didn't even think about this, and I know how many times we talk about the virus. So I had to take her to, what was that place I had to go? Janet Holland. Yeah.
Janet Holland.
Yeah. I had to take her over there.
DMV.
And I was concerned because of the fact that she wasn't vaccinated in the age and going inside that building. And I want to say shouts out to the young man. I don't know his name. There's a guy that's, as you walk in, he's sitting right at the table there. And I explained to him about she needed the vaccination because I'm really concerned. And he, even though it was closed because they had a limit, he let us in to let her get her ID.
Dark skin guy, Miss Carol?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Bendo Black.
And I want to say shouts out to him because he let she says, your mother in the car? I said, yes. He said, bring her in. He let her come in and we sat over in the corner by ourselves. And it took a few minutes, but he said he came back in and he told them, take her right now, because the lady apologized to me. Take her right now because he knew she had to get out.
He's a good guy.
Right. But my thing about it is, does everybody know that the elderly, when I'm saying the elderly, maybe someone that lives alone, cannot get a vaccination, their vaccination because of the fact they don't have the proper ID. Because I didn't think about that. I mean, for us, yes, but for the elderly I'm talking about, that might not have a way for someone to take them down and get that Florida ID.
Homebound elderly.
Have y'all thought about that? To get that Florida ID for the elderly that might not have any ID at all?
I was under a different impression on that requirement. I would look into that further. I think if you have something with her address on it, saying that with her name, Pastor, I had all of that. Right. And they told me, this was Friday, she has to have a valid ID. Right.
And because I didn't want to take her to the DMV.
Right.
And so I was real concerned. I said I was going to bring it up on the show to make sure that we let the people know that that's something that we need to look into.
If they don't already have it, they're gonna have to get it.
Yeah,
That valid ID.
yeah. I wasn't concerned with people that are driving. I'm concerned with people that might be homebound or people that might not.
Who license expired years ago, that's not driving anymore, that's not out and participating in different things.
I'm going to speak with the CEO of Community Health, and I believe I'm going to do my very best to meet with her tomorrow. I believe that we need to carve out an exception to that rule. I think that's an unnecessary burden that's being placed on the elderly to get vaccinated. And so I understand they want to make sure that the person that receiving the vaccine is legit. But if like my mother, she doesn't have a driver license because she can't drive. She has dementia and stuff like that. So she won't have that ID. She got vaccinated. My sister got her vaccinated. I don't know what she did, but she had that done in Maryland. She with me now. But I'm going to take a look at that, because if that's the case, I'm going to see if can we find a way around lifting that unnecessary burden. If you can have a couple of documents, like a lot of things they say, if you got a electric bill with your address on, or you got a place where a couple of documentation saying that this is you, it'll suffice. And I'm gonna see, can we make that work for the other? Hopefully I can report back next week on that.
Okay, because they told me it has to be a picture ID. That's why I had to go to and get a Florida ID.
No,
that was Friday.
Latita Sickfield on her Facebook stream says community clinic takes any ID for care, expired license, or anything with a picture.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
you have to have something with a picture.
Okay.
Even if it's expired, I mean, it'll work.
Right, but it's got a picture on it.
We need to clear it up because it's going, when we go out there and do the program trying to vaccinate people or get them interested, we need to make sure if we come into elderly that might have a problem, that we know exactly what the guidelines are. I'm only sharing the process I had to go through to get a Florida ID for my mother so that she can go tomorrow down to Brownsville and get vaccinated.
Now you are signing your mother up through that link I gave you, right?
You know I am.
Because she need to get that $100.
Yes, but that's not the reason why.
No, at all. But I'm saying,
hey, just give me Miss Carol's $100.
But I want people to know that's not the reason why. I was concerned because of the hurricanes, because of the fact that something might happen when family members have to come in, because like in a situation where I had to take her out in an emergency situation. I don't want her to be caught up and be the only one not vaccinated, even though I still have concerns about that second shot for her since she's 94.
Let me, can I share, I know a young lady that she's at 100 and she just, this was early on when they were giving the vaccination, and her daughter was very concerned about her because she had some pre-existing conditions and things like that. And when she took the shot, she did have some side effects. So kind of expected, but I did a little research on that. Another person knows her, and she knows this lady and her mother, and she said her mother was already ill before she took the shot. You see what I'm saying? So if a person is ill, before they take the shot, then you're probably still gonna have some side effect. It wasn't like she was in real good health, you know what I'm saying? And then she took the shot and then she had all these side effects. So she probably gonna have a little, because my daughter had side effect. My wife and my other daughter and myself, only side effect I had from the shot on my second one was that I got a little sleepy. That's the only thing. I got a little sleepy for couple of hours, and that's dangerous if you're driving. Because I drove through a stop sign, I nodded because I thought I was fine, and then all of a sudden I got a little sleepy. But that's the only side effect I have. And Bro Jerry, Bro Bill, Bro Rodney, y'all all had the shot, right?
I did.
What's been y'all experience?
Well, I was just really hoping that when they stuck me that the muscle didn't break the needle, but other than that.
The Superman muscles, huh?
Yeah, I had absolutely nothing, nothing.
But you haven't taken the second one yet.
I have not gotten the second one yet. I'm sure looking for, I'm looking for the date though. I tell you that.
I heard that, yeah.
But Rodney, you had both. What was your experience, sir?
I have not had both of them, Doc.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, I'll take Rodney's 100 also.
Have you got the first one? That's the question.
Them folks don't need no 100. Just I got 200.
You know, there's a booster shot. You know, we were talking about whether or not they would have a booster shot, and they will have one, but there's only certain types of people with certain conditions can take that booster shot at this time. I'm gonna read this and you tell me. So the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said a third dose is recommended for people who are moderately or severely immunocompromised. That includes people who are receiving treatment for solid tumor cancers and cancers of the blood, patients who have undergone within the last 2 years a bone marrow transplant or are still taking drugs to suppress their immune system, a patient with advanced or untreated HIV infection. So it's important that we tell people that they might have the booster shot, but it's not going to be offered to everyone at this time.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I saw Brother Clark and Samuel X. Clark, he was talking about therapeutics. Evidently, we got to get Brother Clark on the show to talk about some of those things that's he worked with that's helping people to heal as well. So there might be some alternatives. And you know that because that other one is mono Clark, I can't think of the name of it. That therapeutics that they gave Trump.
Oh yeah. The one that they said you can't ask the hospital.
Monoclonal.
Right.
Yeah,
you have to ask for it. The hospital won't automatically give it to you. You have to ask the hospital.
It must be really expensive. The reason they're not, I don't know why they're not offering. Because the insurance companies and the government ought to pick up the tab on that, because if they got to pick up tabs for $300,000-$400,000, look like to me they will pick up a tab maybe for $4,000 or $5,000.
Well, it's real expensive.
Yeah.
So hello, Brother Gunn.
Hello.
How are you doing? Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. How you doing?
I still don't see that black hat.
I know. It's coming.
And then we need to remind people about that vaccine card. That, you know, we said from the very beginning that the cards were going to have to be mandated. You're going to eventually have to carry that card with you to go in the store, to go to anywhere. You're going to have a card saying to any kind of event, festival, any kind of anything. Except school. Well, how do y'all feel about having to hold on to your card and show it if you want to go to certain venues or certain stores or certain places?
I think mostly it's going to be demanded, like if you get on planes, big events and stuff like that. But as far as going to the store, they're probably going to require you to wear a mask in there to make sure that you're protecting. Eventually, it's going to be mandatory for the mask. Because business is gonna, they're gonna save themselves, and so they know that if people are coming in unmasked and infecting other people or their employees, they're gonna be out of business. So they're gonna demand that you mask up when you come in there. And it's no more than right if you're trying to protect everybody else. You know?
But can you, they were saying about the car should have been a little smaller because someone was making a comment saying, how can you carry that big old card around, you know, you have to be able to fold it and put it in your wallet, but it's paper, you know, a suggestion was to put it on your phone or to photocopy it or something, do not laminate it.
I think they are vastly moving it towards mandating everyone to get the vaccine because we're living in community. The name of this show is Community Conversation. When you are living in community, you have to do that which is for the greater good of the community. Individual rights must take a back seat to the greater good. A simple example. They moved initially. It wasn't mandatory to wear a seat belt, but for the greater good because of the tremendous lives that were being lost. In fact, I spoke to one state trooper, and he said this to me. He said, "I've been to a lot of car crashes, and I have never came up on a car crash where that person was dead that had on his seatbelt." Now that's serious. Everyone that died in those car wrecks that there are exceptions. You got anomaly and outliers that will happen in anything outside the bell curve. But for the greater good. And so now that they are giving final approval, FDA, they're going to mandate this, that everyone be vaccinated. Now, they're going to probably give you 6 months, but they're going to have to do it so that this virus won't continue to mutate and to a point where the whole community going to be once again unprotected.
Well, you know, people that are not vaccinated, say for instance, they want to go to Disneyland or Disney World, say they want to go on a cruise, say they want to go to a national park or somewhere, the way on the airplane, like Jerry said, the way it's going now, you will not be able to do that if you do not show your vaccination card.
Show that you tested negative. You got to,
or that you tested negative.
But you definitely get, you know, what they are mandating right now on the planes are you got to be masked. You know,
no, they're asking for cards. I know some
of them are, but they are mandating the mask, and the mask is the one that's is helping to protect a lot of people on the plane and people who are traveling back and forth. So they are mandating that. They haven't mandated the vaccine as of yet, but you know, the future is probably going to demand that. You know, a mass majority of them get it because every time this thing mutates, instead of get weaker, it gets stronger.
Talking about having to have a vaccination to get on a cruise, Carnival just returned to port with 23 of the crew members testing positive, and they made no mention of how many of the passengers. So you can imagine the 23 crew members that's touching everything came back or came down or were tested positive. What that did for, and now all of those people going out into different populations around the country. I tell you.
Yeah. Question would be, how do you verify each individual that's been vaccinated? I know in California, they was talking about putting some kind of database system in place in order to register the individual with the doctor's office or with someone that can verify. You know,
they just intercepted like thousands of fraudulent vaccination cards that's being brought to our country from China and other countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it, they with the day that you take that shot, you're going into a database right then, because they're going to keep track of everybody, and they are tracking to see how many who gets side effects and who don't. And they are saying out of the millions of people that have taken it, there's very few side effects that has come out of it. but they're tracking everything.
Yeah, you know, with the restaurants and the local places that are barring people from coming in unless they have a card, they are not connected to that database.
Right, right.
You know, with the fraudulent cards out there, it's going to be very difficult to monitor those people.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So you're really not safe, even though they'll say we're checking the cards, there's going to be fraudulent cards, fake cards.
I think you can only put so many precautions in place. Howard got a good point, but I remember when I was 16, my brother was in the Marine Corps, and he was getting married down in Orlando. They had a Navy Marine base down there, and his friends came, and I was probably the same size I am now when I was 16. I was pretty big.
Yeah, right.
So one of his Marine buddy gave me one of his ID cards, and I went to the base and partied at 16.
So you're telling me now,
No, what I'm saying is that the Marine, they notice if you can get on a military base.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? You need an ID card, and they're supposed to look at you and everything. So even though there's going to be mandates, you're going to always have people who are going to break the law and go around the system. But I think that'll be just a small group of people. If we can get to that 75 to 80% herd immunity, those few that's just not going to get it and going to cheat, I think that we can survive.
Well, I want to go. There's different levels of the virus, of the variant. Y'all know that it's a variant of interest. That new variant, that Lambda, LAMBDA, is out there, and if there was a case in Houston that they just have, that's called a variant of interest. Then there's a variant of concern. And then there's a variant of high consequences. So look for those terminologies when you hear them talking about it. And then did you know there's a doomsday variant? And the doomsday variant, it says, could evade vaccines and cause widespread cases in the United States. That means the vaccines will not work with this doomsday variant. So we haven't gotten to that yet, but we need to actually get to herd immunity quickly, because if you look at that variant, that new one, that Lambda, it was a variant of interest. Now it's going to a variant of concern. So, then it goes farther and farther. So we have to be aware of these mutations and everything that's going on now. It's wild out here with this.
It really is.
All right.
I just want to say again, some of the people that have other alternative means of healing, we need to hear from them as well, so that we can know that there may be something out there that Cuba has. We know about Cuba had developed stuff for hearts and all of that, but it won't be allowed in the United States because we got sanctions on it. But we need to see what's out there. Along with we definitely want people to get vaccinated, but we need to see what's out there.
Well, y'all heard about what happened in Haiti. Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah.
Earthquake. 7.2.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many people missing? How many people? Did they give statistics?
The last one that I saw was 700 and something dead. I know it's been updated since then. That was earlier today. 1,000 missing. So that means that there are more people probably dead because they're already missing. But the thing about
this afternoon, it was 1,300 dead.
Wow! Wow!
Yeah, 7.2 is pretty.
Yeah, it was more powerful than the last one that killed. What, it was 100,000, 300,000 people.
A couple of 100,000.
Yeah. So this earthquake was bigger than that, was stronger than that one. And the thing about it is, it was so dangerous now. These hurricanes with these tropical storms and all that's coming right behind, it's going to make, even if somebody survived now, if they don't get them right away, it's going to be devastating over there.
On top of the fact that they don't have a president in place after the assassination a month ago.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Grace is supposed to be,
Yes.
even though it's going to be just a tropical depression now, it's still going to be rain, a lot, and some wind. So it's still going to hinder the capabilities of finding people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Champ said last earthquake in Haiti resulted in 250,000 dead. I know it's somewhere around that.
Yeah.
So, and now, Brother Clark said when he looked, it was 1,200. So, Doc, you say you saw 13. So it's climbing. And the thing about it, all the focus is 10,000 miles away in Afghanistan, and right here in our hemisphere. We're not even talking about on the news. You hear a blip here and there as if, that's a waste of time. And we're the reason Haiti is in the condition that it's in because of sanction we done put on it for many years. France and Great Britain just raped the country of its resources and wealth, and now nobody want to do anything about it. Ever since they freed themselves, they had to turn around and pay the person that put them in slavery, which was France.
That's right.
Okay, well, Dr. Williams, I'm coming at you. Carlton ain't here, so I'm coming at you. Where your road, dog? You're right, buddy.
That toll I said 1,300. I just pulled it up on the internet. It is at 1,297. So the number said approaching 1,300. So it's at 1,297. So that person that just told you, Bill, is absolutely right. It's three short of 1,300 so far.
Yeah.
But back to my road dog.
Yeah.
and that's my dog. That's
he needs to put some emphasis on Haiti is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Okay,
right.
I'm done.
I mean,
you have a comment with that one. I know.
Yeah. We policing over there, just playing security in the Middle East, and here they are down here that really need some troops and some money and some help, some rations, some everything.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was in Surfside, Florida, probably about right when they was cleaning up everything there with the collapse of the condos. And the number of people that was cleaning that site up and the amount of equipment that was on that site, it goes to show that they can move that same way in Haiti.
That's correct.
Because they went in and cleaned this building up. I mean, it's just flattened this land, and it looks like an ocean. It looks like a beach now.
Look like they could build a yes.
So I look at it where the emphasis are. They're not concerned about us. Never have been. And we don't seem to be concerned about each other because we have enough resources, Black folks in America, that could take what is needed there in Haiti at this point, machinery, even ship. I think Shaq have $100 million yacht. I mean, are the priorities here? We see them taking care of their own countries, but they don't take care of like a country. Even Jamaica, they're over there now digging the aluminum out of Jamaica, and that's a big fight there. But we sit back and we support what they're doing, but we don't seem to come together in times of crisis to help our nations that looks like us.
Yeah, you're right. Oprah goes over and builds a school in another country. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, before we go to our main topic, I just want to give our host a chance. Is there something that you think is an issue that you would like to bring up tonight? This is Community Conversations. Is there something you would like to talk about briefly and discuss? No issues. I saw something on there about. Go ahead, Mr. Gunn.
Yes, I want to talk about the corruption in Tallahassee. Have you been listening to the news lately about what has really taken place in Tallahassee as relates to the past mayor Maddox and the even Gillum came up in this investigation. They just indicted one of the largest medical marijuana owners in the United States. Truliev's husband, Kim Rivers' husband, has been actually convicted, sentenced this next month for bribery and for all kinds of corruption. So this is going on in Tallahassee. It's been in the news a month now. So I would like to elaborate on that because it really affected us when we was there in 2016 and 2017.
Okay, you want to talk about that briefly so before we move into our main topic?
Okay, sure. Following the news, back in 2015, 2016, you know, medical marijuana hit Florida very hard. And they gave license to 5 dealers there. And those 5 dealers were basically screening everybody else out. Even the white boys got screened out. And the biggest dealer that came out of that was True Leaf. Now, True Leaf have 85 dispensaries in the state. They are the largest. Kim Rivers is the CEO. She married a partner of hers that was in the business. He's the one that has recently been convicted. Sentencing is going to be next month, along with Maddox, who was the mayor and commissioner who did deals. So we began to unravel what was really happening in 2016 and 2015 when we were called to Tallahassee, that is the Black farmers, to protest the fact that they had already determined who would get a medical marijuana license. And in doing so, they basically gave us a statute, but they didn't give us a license. They said that three licenses would be granted to the Black farmers. Well, it dwindled down to 1 license. And now it's only 1 license. This is 2015, 2016, 2017. The stipulations that they put in writing in order to keep people out of the business is that you had to have at least 30 years of nurseryman experience, meaning you had to be growing, and you had to have grown over 400,000 plants within that 30-year period. Couldn't be any breaks. You had to pay a $60,000 non-refundable application fee, whether you win or lose. A $5 million performance bond had to be also, you had to get one of those once you get it. Now, you know, and you had to have so many other things. It would have been $5 to $10 million just to get into the business. It kept us out, okay? Those who actually put in an application and wasn't awarded the license sued the state, and it's through the administrative hearing, the state granted them 10 additional licenses, but they wouldn't take an application from the Black farmer or anyone else. So this is what is unraveling now in Tallahassee. You can go on there. The gentleman's name is J.T. Barnett. If you Google Burnettete, yeah. If you go and Google his name, it will take you back to last month when everything went down. Now, you have to follow the story to know what was really going on. You know, we went before the Senate.
Okay, we can't take we probably gonna have to have at least 15, 20 minutes on that. I know you're ready to go into it, but I was getting ready to go I can tell. I had to jump in there because
these crooks, I'm telling you.
I can tell you're ready to get into it, but we'll have to have just one show on that period because that's something that we need to really talk about. And I can see that's something that's close to your heart.
Yes.
So we will have a show on that as well.
Ms. Kara, can I ask him one question very quickly?
Yes.
What was the connection between Mayor Gillum?
Well, Gillum was on the boat and received tickets with an FBI agent who was investigating these crooks that was trying to connect Gillum with the Hotel Duval, where the gentleman was basically trying to cut a deal with another developer not to build a hotel near the Hotel Duval in Tallahassee. And Gillum came up in that picture.
Okay, so he basically, they gave him unauthorized tickets.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what he was going to court for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, y'all, let's talk about the racial disparities and climate change.
Yes.
Do you all think that this is an important topic? If so, why? Why is climate change important for the Black community? Rodney?
Climate change is always important for the Black community, simply because we are a vulnerable community, one. And in regards to the things that are happening, for me, I'm on a board called the Gulf South, the Healthy Gulf Board, which is a board made up of members from New Orleans to probably down on the intercoastal area in Florida, a lot of people. And we're filing litigation in regards to the disparities within the African-American community associated with some of the climate change issues that persist within our communities. The Healthy Gulf represents an Earth Injustice Legal Defense Fund. And that's what we have, a fund, and where we've joined the Biological Diversity Sierra Club and others in challenging Bureau of Ocean Energy Management decisions to hold oil and gas leases sailed in the Gulf of Mexico in 2021 or 22. In that, we understand how Blacks are being affected within the dynamics of our own community based on these big companies and the things that they're doing, which is the oil drillings, the refineries, which are destroying our atmosphere and our ozone layers. And the Black community suffers the most because we are already in a poverty-stricken state, as it is pointed out in the fact sheet associated with our Healthy Gulf Board. Whereas I can't really see much of what Black communities could do in regards to climate change, except for our advocation. I know we have an individual on one of our boards of Movement for Change, Mr. Mike Potter, and I think that's one of their specialties. I think that's what they're doing, looking at some of those particular things when it comes to climate change.
Yeah, Jared, talk about climate change a little bit.
Well, I've been talking about it for years. I don't think we have woken up in the Black community to climate change and how it's affecting us on that level. And what Rodney is saying is true. If we don't wake up to the fact that climate change is going to affect us in many ways. You look at the fires that's burning millions and millions of acres, not only here in the United States, but around the world. You look at oceans heating up now to a percentage point, and they're trying to keep the ocean, the heat temperature down below another point because they say salmon fish that swim upstream now are being scalded in the water where they live. You look at the food baskets around the country and around the world. You're talking about people going hungry because of the land is going to turn to desert land, and the air quality and all of that is affecting how we live in America and throughout the world. It says under the environmental racism and environmental justice, it says it refers to unequal access to a clean environment and basic environmental resources based on race. Community of colors are disproportionately victimized by environmental hazards and are far more likely to live in areas with heavy pollution. People of color are more likely to die of environmental causes, and more than half of the people who live close to hazard waste are people of color. So letting you know that our lives are always in danger from asthma and lead poison and all kinds of stuff. And that affects us, how we learn in school, learn in society as a whole, because we are getting brain damage at an early age.
I'd like to add to that, Ms. Carol. I agree with Roger and Rodney. I think climate change disproportionately affect the African American community because the majority of Blacks live in the South, and as this weather, it will be vulnerable to flooding. With this climate change, it's going to affect us more, because these hurricanes going to get stronger,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have the best houses, and
Right.
and these power grids. And you may recall Katrina. When Katrina hit, it affected a lot of New Orleans, but the most one who was disproportionately affected was those who were living in those low-lying areas, flood-prone areas, and that were Black folk. Because the white folk, they had moved out, the Black folk moved in, and then when it come in, they were severely affected. So it's with pollution, it's with flooding, it's going to create more food deserts. We don't have enough food places in our community as it is, and it's keep getting hotter. And then it's going to affect our health, because if we don't get the right foods, then we develop diabetes, we develop cancer. It's just all around disproportionate affect people of color.
Well, one thing I heard was that, when you said hurricanes, now with people of color, when you file a claim, your claim is not as valuable or important as a white person's claim. This is just facts. So people of color are, it takes them longer to get their house back to the way it was before the disaster. Sometimes they never do. I think it's with Sally, there's some people that still haven't gotten their homes replaced yet. And so the value of the houses are considered less. Do you all realize that, or is that something that y'all thought about? When there is a disaster, the replacement of some houses are replaced right away. No questions asked. They give them the money and let them replace. Others have to fight for it.
Let's see what that study says at Rice University. It said this study was done by Rice University and the University of Pittsburgh. It said it was found that white counties saw an increase in average wealth after a natural disaster, while predominant minorities county saw a wealth decrease. The study notes that the white community saw a higher level of reinvestment in their community after a natural disaster in comparison to minorities. So in addition, it was found that white families in communities with significant damage from natural disasters saw an increase in wealth due to generous reinvestment initiatives. However, minorities family and community with similar damage from natural disasters saw a smaller increase in wealth, or they actually saw a decrease in wealth. So it continues to tell you that even though the value of your house may be as valuable as somebody else, but you're gonna get devalued because of coverage of your insurance that don't, and the other investment from the cities and counties and states that don't take place in your community.
James Coons has a book called Black Theology. And I recommend every listener to read that book. It talks about the systemic and the systematic racism that is built in every facet of American fabric. And so even when it comes to people investigating how much to pay for your home, it doesn't matter. They from the medical profession to the university to the legal system it doesn't matter. So whenever white America get a cough, we're gonna end up with the flu.
Amen. Or the pandemic.
Pandemic. So Rodney said it best. It's high time that we start taking care of our own community. We want to be a part of the larger community, and in our meetings Tuesday with clergy, the brother from a predominantly white university is saying that we got to find a way to work together with our white counterparts, and we have to work in unity. And my question, and he got off the Zoom before I could make my question. My question to him, you want us to be in community with them. We never had a problem being in community with white. They have never accepted us.
Mhm.
So you want us to make them do what they don't want to do. You unravel that for me, my brother.
Amen. 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 You know, and just to echo on what you're saying with our communities, you know, with climate change, and as the gentleman was saying earlier, you know, our community in the South, we are probably more dependent on agriculture as a way of life than most of our northern cities. Therefore, we're going to be affected more. And when I say that, you have to look at the change in temperature now that it's happening. Farmer can't really keep up pace with these big companies because we don't have the resources to do so.
Right.
When it comes to irrigation and greenhousing, you know, where they start growing stuff now in the greenhouse and aquaponics and hydroponics, you know, those are the systems that they're putting in place, but it's expensive systems. You know, it's very expensive to do systems this way on a productive, on a big level. So we farming in the ground like we were used to farming, but we can't compete because of climate changes. You know, the rainfall is not there like it used to be when I was coming up. Okay?
Right.
It's too hot now. You can't, an insect problem that is caused by climate changes, erosion and fertilization that is making all this emission possible. So when you look at it from this perspective, they're going to be controlling the best food. You'll get food, but you won't get the highest quality of foods. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, your body only, you know, you'll get the calories, but you won't get the highest volume of calories. So this is where I see the problem. And as the gentleman was saying, you know, when you look at the emissions that is going into the earth, we're not putting all those emissions into the earth because we don't have the resources.
That's
It
right.
is the bigger companies. It is those mining companies. It is those trucking companies. It is those who are running these 25,000 trucks on the road. That's not us. But we are the ones going to get the fallout on all of this stuff. With the livestock, you know, when we see the livestock emissions, greenhouse emission, methane gases, you know, we don't own those kind of cattle. We don't own 15,000 cattle in a feedlot. That's not us. But we're going to be directly affected by this, you know. So there's a lot of problems. I could go on with agriculture. We're really having it hard keeping up. And where will we be, you know, unless we go vertical in our growth indoors? It's going to have to go indoors.
Yeah.
Hey, in another report I see the Healthy Gulf Board has in regards to some of the emissions and things that they're doing right off the Gulf Coast in the Gulf of Mexico, how they state that these emissions and these new drillings and the leasing of hundreds of miles of the Gulf are exacerbating climate change to the degree 100-year storms are now every 10 years or every 15 years. It has changed to such a degree that it has exacerbated or speeded up this climate change. But what I look at is from the perspective of the African-American community, whereas we've been in many of these communities for years. Our families grew up in these particular communities, as Doc said earlier. Infrastructures are pretty much gone in those communities. We live in these flood zones and all of this. How do we change that dynamics when ain't no real resources coming into our community? None. We can't move out and we can't move them out. And so just like in this board here, in the data shows that they're filing a suit against Exxon, but I'm wondering how long will it take for that to matriculate to our community, that something will be done in our community or resources will be brought to move people out of these particular communities as the climate change continues to exacerbate or speeds up, and you got these 100-year storms become every 5 years now. Or something to that effect, where the infrastructure cannot hold or maintain it, but yet we're still stuck in these particular places.
Amen. Amen. And you know, and when the storm comes, they are the ones that get the contracts to do the cleanup. So this is the sad thing. How many Black contractors you know who have done cleanup with storms in Florida or storms in North Carolina? We can't get those contracts. We've tried. We know you might get a subcontract from a major contractor if possible, but it's a blessing to them.
Well, what about like Wedgwood here in Pensacola? You know, with the super site and the landfills and all that, and a lot of people in that area have a lot of illness due to the toxins that's in the soil and in the water. Why aren't they doing more in regards to that? Why aren't they moving or giving them opportunity to move like they did? You all remember that land that was right next to, it's off of Palafox, right where
Rosewood Cherry. Rosewood Cherry and Escambia.
People out.
Yeah.
Then why aren't they doing that for the people in Wedgwood and Rolling Hills?
Superfund site. Well, they don't want to pay them.
Yeah.
And what they, because they would have to buy those houses and things of that nature. And so they don't pay people.
Domain and give them pennies.
And I think right now, they're researching to find out or trying to collect data to see exactly how many people have contracted some type of illness over a course of time. Dr. Avant, he worked real closely with the people of Wedgwood in that he runs an environmental program that I'm a part of. And in that, you got a lot of people who are involved in that stuff out there, and a lot of things that we don't know that's going on out there, where you got even residents out there who have taken initiative and partnered with other organizations or companies, and they've gotten attorneys in, and they're getting little to no assistance out there because they're so divided in that particular community when it comes to trying to get some type of changes done. We had our county commissioners out there saying that they were going to get some done. It was found out one of his secretaries or his secretary or something, her husband owns a landfill out there. You got even the school board who owns a landfill out there. You got so many different things, the different components out there. And that's why it's kind of stagnating change in that community.
Wow.
And I would suggest that researching, and this just my thesis, my hypothesis, is that here in Escambia County, I believe that we have the highest rate of diabetes in the state of Florida, if not in the entire country.
And cancer.
And cancer. And one must ask the question, you know why? They have buried so much toxin. Know the neighborhoods you all just mentioned. They buried this intention and then built homes, and people live in those communities for 30 and 40 years. Now that becomes generational. You done got it in their system, they pass it on to the children.
Absolutely.
And now when it's time to rectify, as Rodney said, it's too much corruption in there, so that they ain't gonna do anything for another 30, 40 years because they come out and say, we're gonna do this, and then they go back behind closed doors and say, man, they're gonna cause me. I ain't doing that. Then no, man, I ain't doing that. Well, we get on TV and say we're gonna do something, then they go behind closed doors. And so we don't have the accountability that we need in leadership. And so I really think, as Rodney, I don't want to agree with Rodney. I want to fight against him on here, but he's right. So I got to agree with him. You know what I'm saying? I can't brother ain't on tonight. Oh, what's his name, brother?
Carlton.
Yeah, he ain't on. I can't fight with him. I know a Baptist preacher love a good fight. You know what I'm saying?
The politicians come around at election time and promise to do all of what they're going to do for those kind of places. But then once they start the quest, they start seeing who sits on the board and who all is connected, as Rodney was saying, then they realize that it's a battle that they can't win. Is what I think essentially it amounts to.
Oh, basically, they don't care about the health of the individuals.
No, it's all
money. There's money.
It's the big money that has control. They say you got to basically go out of state to get an attorney to fight, and such a lot of the out-of-state attorneys are in cahoots with a lot of the big ones that won't take. You can have a serious case with any major hospital in this area, and I dare you to seek an attorney in this town to go after one of them. It's not going to happen.
Wow.
And when you look at the aquifers, where they got all these landfills, people don't realize there are seepage that take place in the veins of the earth that goes right into the water stream. You know, they clean up some of it coming out of those tanks that, that cleans up the water, but it's not going to be that clean because it got all kinds of other stuff in there that they have to clean up. So these poisons are going into the aquifers that are doing irreparable damage to the brain of people, to children, and to the health, the heart, the lungs, your kidneys, and all kinds of things. From working in the water system, I understand how it works. Before, you just go to the thing, turn your water on, get some water. But once you work in it and understand what's going on, how it works, it's so many things that people have no idea when their water come to their house, that water treatment, that treatment that has to take place before you drink that water or take a shower in.
Gloria Horning just posted in the Movement for Change page just here a couple of days ago about the water she tested right down where she lives and all of the pesticides that's actually in it. I mean, showing up.
Yeah.
So it's like we can't win. It's like everything is against people of color because we talked about the virus. We're talking about climate change. There's all, the overall systematic racism, like the pastor said, that's ingrained in America, no matter what they say.
Yeah. And they don't care.
How can we win? Go ahead, Mr. God.
You mentioned that, us as a people, but it's a capitalistic society that we live in, and they don't care about that poor white boy either. It's all about capitalism. It's all about the dollar. And if you get in the way of their dollar, they will try to eliminate you, or they will silence you in one way or the other. Because the mean green, the mighty green in America, that's what runs this ship. Okay, without that, they have nothing. So they're gonna eat better, they're gonna live better, they're gonna live on a higher level than we are. So they pollute our lands, they pollute our water, and hoping that we die because it's one less mouth they have to worry about. That's just the way capitalism is. That's just how it is. The more you got, the more you want.
One of the things that we have to come to understand is that we need, and I'll say it forever, is that we have to have legal defense fund. Every community needs a legal defense fund. Then every community need, especially our community, need lawyers that's working for us.
Absolutely.
We have to get over the fact that we have to, run for grants for everything that we do. And we are pushed to that point because of lack of support from people in our community. If we had we could have $1 billion legal defense fund in America right now, tomorrow, by asking people if people would. We got over, they tell you it's around 40 million, but it's more than 60 million Black folks live in this country. And if we just put $1 a month in, we could set up a legal defense fund that would overshadow anything else out there. And just from $1 or $2 a month, putting it into making sure that every community have something, some kind of coverage, every state have a coverage, but that's used to help the people, not for us to, get rich off and, to look good and put on TV programs and all of that. But we definitely need that legal defense fund. We have to have.
Amen.
Back to the diabetes, I did a little research while you were speaking. For large cities, Miami is the #1 city in the United States. And so I'm trying to see where smaller cities fit in, because I think is Miami followed by, I think, Charlotte and then New Orleans. I think that rate, but I want to look at the smaller city. But notice the state that leads everybody in diabetes right here in Florida. That's I know they got Arkansas and all those, but Miami, imagine that.
Wow.
Percentage of Black being affected with diabetes, and then New Orleans and Charlotte. Each one of those are predominant. Well, Blacks are leaving out of Miami. Hispanics is taking over Miami now. But they done did the damage. But Carroll City and all those places used to be all Black. That's changing now. But before then, the damage been done though. This climate change, this polluting, we gotta do something, y'all. It's time, like, for us, as biblical speaking said, we're to lift our voice as trumpet, and we're to cry loud, and we're to spare. Now it's time now for us to lift our voice, cry loud, come together, and take some action. And we need somebody who can bring folks together, that can transcend all of our divides, a personality that can be bigger than our differences, that can be for our greater good. And I'm on board. I'll work with whoever I can if we can get there. I ain't trying to be the leader, but I want to be a part of it. If we know who can do it, I want to be a part of it.
Do you think we'll ever have another Martin Luther King or any other leader like that because of the fact the way they are attacking? If you stand up and lead, then they attack you and put you back down now, because I think they said there'll never be a Messiah for black. For black.
We may
what do you think about that? I mean, I don't think
we may not need just a Martin Luther. We might need a Martin and a Malcolm at the same time again, because see, they had to have options who they want to deal with. Malcolm had the momentum, and if they had assassinated him, Malcolm may have been more effective than Martin. But they had the two options, and so they thought Martin was the lesser two evil. So they get him knocked off, and they make it play like they did it in-house, because they plant CIA, they plant FBI, they plant all these folks in and knock you off, and then it looked like we did it. You see what I'm saying?
You know what, Doc, though, it was so many more out there. They pushed us down to believe in this Messiah figure.
Yeah.
And all that's good. But you had the A. Philip Randolph, who was over the black car porters, who was there with Martin Luther King. You had SNCC. You had the Black Panther Party. You had so many other organizations out there working on the ground. It wasn't just, but that's how, but it's been shaped around one person. But when you do that, you limit what the quality that need to be done. That means we have to start planning in our community. Every community need to plan out where they want to go strategically and make sure that they implement those plans. But too often we get caught up in personality, and that's not good for us ever. When they assassinated Medgar Evers, that killed the movement for a long time in Mississippi, except when Fannie Lou Hamer came along. When they killed Martin Luther King, things fell in disarray. When they killed, wiped out the Black Panther Party and left the Ku Klux Klan, and the Black Panther Party, made them as if they was violent thugs in American history trying to overthrow the government, which was a big lie. The whole thing about the Black Panthers was a lie, because I knew people was in it. I knew family members that was in it. The whole thing of this is to make people look to one person. And that's a bad deal for us. We can never be that person looking to one person. You had the Nation of Islam, who was helping people to build businesses and all of that back then. That people, they was kind of the rejected stone, in other words, but they were the one cleaning up black men and women and helping them to develop themselves into business people, learning who they were, learning their history, all of those things. But those are just some of the things that took place, and we can never, as I say again, look to just one figure.
Well, I'm gonna ask this of Rodney. Do you think, and Pastor too, because he has a group of guys, do you think that the Black community could ever get to the point where we're all unified, without that's a question, because like Jerry is saying, he's pictured, we got to come together, and Dr. Williams, you said, we've got to come together, and we know that in order to make a difference. But how do we go about doing that? Do you think our community can ever be truly unified?
I really, I don't think we can ever really be truly unified. I think we can unify to some degree. I'm cautiously optimistic about that, because as we gather together, we see that we can pull in other partners. Look at like Dr. Williams, Bill Snow, who are business owners as well as organization leaders and all of that. So I do know we can come together to some degree. However, overall, when you look at it, I don't think we can come together. I think we have too much interjecting itself into our community when it comes to one, Black media, Black genres, and all of these particular things. Even if you look now, we have more Black millionaires than ever in the history of this country. However, we're still the largest population in poverty. We're still the largest population with health disparities, HIV, unemployment, incarcerated, all of these things, which shows the point or proves the point that obviously we can't come together to a degree that we can work out some of the issues in our own community.
And the thing about it, it's not, I think people a lot, not us, but there are people outside of that don't work in organizations and groups and all of that, really don't understand that we have to work around a cause. And that cause has to be that it's going to affect everybody in our community, and how it's going to affect us directly or indirectly has to be in the best interest of everybody that's involved. So that means if we need a legal defense fund, that means if we need some for real estate and all of that, then we have to start working on that at every local level and then make it to a national quest.
Ms. Carol, I think your question was somewhat parenthetical, because I think you're probably 100% correct. Even though I'm somewhat with Rodney, I want to be cautiously optimistic, because you know that history in America, that if you get a strong Black personality, they're gonna assassinate. Because if this person get too big, that the people start to go out behind them, that's going to change, upset their apple cart, they're going to take you out. So to come to one person, I think you are right. I don't think we'll ever have that person again. But Jerry's perhaps said it best. If we got to have different competing organizations who are working towards the same cause, and if we can have someone who can orchestrate that, like we just talk about racial disparity. If we want what we want, what part of that puzzle we want to attack? We want what area we want to attack? Is it housing? Is it healthcare? Is it jobs? Is it empowerment? What is it? And then we begin to all work towards that from our different vantage point. I think we can begin to make a difference. And we need some, but it's going to take sacrifice, and it's going to take resources. And when you come to our community right now, there's not a whole lot of individuals who are offering up to be a sacrificial lamb, and there's a whole lot of saying, "Here's my treasure." And so, but I do believe right now, I believe we can somewhat come together. Now, who that personality who can manage to supervise to get that together, I don't see that person, or I see that person, but I just don't recognize that person right now. I don't see one central person in Pensacola right now can do it, except I thought Jerry might did, but Jerry don't want to be that sacrificial lamb.
No.
I think Jerry could actually be it, but he got to bring a whole lot of facts in, and for one option, he's gonna have to deal with his religion, right?
I want to get to that. That's a show in itself.
Yeah, when people get past that and see that Jerry is one of the best men that I ever met in Pensacola, regardless of religion or race, he's a legitimate brother. And perhaps he could do it, but it gonna be a hard fight for him. But perhaps Rodney and Bill, we can be his
the younger generation to take on that.
We could be his wingman. We could be his wingman. When he get we be and what's the other guy name?
Joshua And
Yeah, not that Joshua's fighting, but the two and can't think of the other. Lord have mercy. Aaron and we could be his Aaron and you know what I'm saying, holding up his wing when he get tired. But he got to find the cause, and then when he go home at night, when he cried everything, you let him lay his head in your arms and push him right on back out there.
And saying that, the Black community also has a problem in supporting our individuals that take on that mantle. Kaepernick is one. You know, he sacrificed a whole lot, and the Black community never really supported him like they should have. Right, and so we got to look at that too. We got to look at ourselves first, and actually see our flaws in order for us to go out and help each other. What do you want to say, Rodney, about that?
I think that's going to be our issue, Miss Mack, and you are absolutely correct. Kaepernick took the stand, he took the hit, and then later everybody else wanted to come out as if they were really supporting us, but they weren't taking the hit. And I think within the dynamics of our community, we're already coming together. We're already on a smaller scale, the organizations, and we get behind causes. As Mr. Mack said earlier, we get behind causes. We partner as organizations, and we have other people we partner with, and we get behind causes. Look at this massive voter registration, voter education, voter drive, and getting people to the polls that just took place in 2020. So we do that. So what are we saying? We still ain't getting the people together in our community to resolve some of these issues within the dynamics of our community. So we still have the same issue. So it doesn't matter, even if we find a cause to get behind, I think the same issues will still persist. That's why I say I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to hope in my heart of hopes that, we can come together holistically and we can really make some changes in our community, but I really can't foresee it.
You know, one of the things that I've always said, that every community should have a, so to speak, lobbyist for the community. That means that person is paid. That means that person don't have to worry about going to a job for somebody else. They can then work for us, find information, agencies that can help us. You know, even if they have to if we have to have certain grants. And some grants we should not even take because it will be controlling our group or organization.
That's right.
But we should be the first one to grant that person, whoever that person is that may be leading these organizations, should be a paid employee of the community, so that person can do the work of the community without worrying about if I go over here, will I lose my job tomorrow? Will I lose the contract that I have? Will I lose this? No, we need to think differently, because you know, people say, well, all them other guys were not paid. Yes, they were. The community gave them money to travel, to speak. That when they went to speak, Martin Luther King, I think he made thousands of speeches around the country. But each time he was raising funds for that organization. The organization in return paid him a salary to run the organization. Malcolm with the Nation of Islam, the organization pays the Nation of Islam president, Minister Farrakhan, and the other people that surround them. And, you know, it's a salary that they give. See, we got to get out of that mindset that freedom is free. Freedom is not free. It costs.
Yeah, Jerry, you're so right, man. You're exactly right on that, because as you look back in the 60s and the 50s, where the preachers were actually the one that was leading the fight, and they were being supported by their parishioners, you know, and they didn't have to worry about going to a 9 to 5. And that's where we saw more advantages back then than we do now. As I've had people that was NAACP president who worked for the city. And once you brought something to him, his job was being jeopardized, you know, what he would say in reference to that. So that is a major part of how we say things based on our finances. I think our finances has a lot to do with how bold we are in speaking.
Exactly.
But there's a shift when you talk about the churches. Back then, the churches were taking the lead, and most of the leaders back then came out of the church.
That's right.
But the churches have shifted, and they're not into politics. They're not into community advocacy the way they should be anymore. And so I would like a show on that because we need to talk about the shift. We don't have that, the ministers taking the lead like they used to.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's a conversation. We don't have 100 Dr. Williams out around Rodney, who's a minister.
Howard Gunn.
We don't have
you make a point
all of that.
I just want to back up because as a civil rights child, growing up in the 60s, going to an all-white school in Mississippi, the first Black family in an all-white school, I was there. I saw it. But my father taught me how to socialize with white folks, how to get along with them, but didn't really teach me a lot of financial etiquettes that I really needed. And I think we missed that in the 60s because, you live in a capitalistic society, you need to have some money.
Yeah.
But they didn't really push money in the 60s. They wanted you to sit in the classroom with them, sit at the table with them, do this social thing. But what we missed out on was the financing.
Right, they didn't give you any power or any money.
No.
I really want to talk about the church's involvement in all of this. All of this is going on, and I know that's a little touchy issue, but there has been a shift as far as what the ministers are willing to do and speak on now in 2021 compared to the 1960s.
Couple more minutes. I'm done. Don't trouble. We're running down about 5 minutes.
So anyway, let's talk about that on another show. But we're over our limit. We're 5 minutes over. I just want to give our hosts a chance to just end the show. Is there anything that's burning that you think that our listeners and viewers should know before we go? We will be back next Sunday. Is there anything, Pastor, you think?
Yes, I want them to know that I got a gift card of $100 when they get that second vaccine. They can call me at 850-712-2945. I need us to roll up our sleeve, participate, vaccinate so we can celebrate.
Amen.
To trusted places, trusted venues, and trusted faces and trusted voices.
Amen.
Absolutely. Bill,
I just want to say that I think Rodney summed it up at the end, that we have to come together like we did leading up to this dictatorship that we had to defeat. We got to come together like that. We can do it once we get with one accord. I believe I am with Rodney and Dr. Williams, cautiously optimistic that we can come together and make a real difference. We did it. We can do it again.
Mr. God?
I have to agree. Keep hope alive is Jesse Jackson's words, and I do believe that God will send the person in to do what is necessary. And while we're waiting, let's be active. Let's walk by faith.
Mm-hmm. Jerry?
I'd just like to say, we are the people that God has sent. We are those people. We just have to teach the next generation. And one of the things Brother Gunn said early on is that when during the early years, we was taught to, be social and, you get a good education, you get a good job. Well, we weren't told to go get a good education, go build some businesses.
Amen.
Go open up a bank, go,
right.
Open up, all the other things that are, look at the necessity and the need of the community and build something around that community to help the need of that community, but it will make you wealth in the process. And so those are the things that we did not learn during the 60s because we were told to go get a good education, go get a good job.
And we're going to end with Helen Stokes.
Rodney.
Oh, Rodney, did I get Rodney? Well, I definitely have to hear his words.
I'm going to be very short. I'm going to end with the scripture, Charity starts at home, then spreads abroad. We got to start to take care of our own communities.
Yeah.
If we want to see change in our own communities.
Right.
Yes, very, very good words. But Helen Stokes, it's her birthday today.
Yeah.
She's ending the show with her words. She said, our parents could not teach us what they don't know or have experienced.
Right.
Each generation should do better than their parents. So we're going to end with that comment. And we want to see everybody next Sunday on Our Voices.
And we want to thank everybody for watching. And we want to thank Vernon for the show being on his platform, which is WBQP TV 12.1, Roku, Fire Stick, and YouTube. We want to thank him. We want to thank everybody that watched the show each week and the participants. We want to thank Sister and Brother Stokes for supporting the show. They are not just watchers, but they support the show as well financially. And other, all of those, Alan Young, all of those sisters and brothers that have supported the show, we want to thank them. Pruitt Lois, Diane Pruitt in St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to end, you all.
Yeah.
We're running behind, but we'll see you all next Sunday,
All right.
7 o'clock. Good night.
God bless everybody. Have a great one.